Hi there, and welcome back to the Center for Equus Coaching. We're a community of coaches who believe that partnering with horses can help transform the way we connect with ourselves, with others, and with the world around us. I'm Travis Stock, one of the instructors here at the center, and I'm excited to keep introducing you to the incredible team behind this work. If you haven't already, take a moment to explore the other videos on our channel. There you'll meet more of our instructors and Equus coaches, get a behind-the-scenes look at what it's like to be an Equus coach, and learn more about the programs and certifications we offer. Today, I'm excited to continue our Meet the Team series with one of our instructors, Renee Sievert, whose qualifications beyond Equus coaching are quite impressive. Not kidding. There's a seriously long set of letters behind her name. But no matter the phase of her career, the core of her work is supporting others, and she does it beautifully. Renee has been around since the beginning, going through the very first iteration of the Equus coaching course, so she has a lot of experience to offer our Equus coaches in training. So let's jump in. Renee, thank you for being here and for sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
So, as I mentioned in the intro to this, you do have quite a background. So, walk us through some of the highlights.
Well, it's it's long, but I started when I was 10. No, I'm kidding. I always have been interested in helping others, in high school, I was on the phone a lot listening to people's, life and what they were going through. So I kind of knew I
Me too.
yeah, just a good listener and good friend. And so I knew I was on the road to a helping career. And I grew up in a tiny town in New Mexico and went to college and was sort of set on a degree, path in like psychology or something like that. And, I got through my first year of, 3 semesters and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to take a while and I'm going to need a way to put myself through college because I had a scholarship for like a year. So my mom was a nurse and I went to the counseling office and said, what about nursing? I could maybe then, have a career and put myself through school. And they said, yeah, it's a great idea. And so I switched gears and got my nursing degree first so that I could, just continue to take every psychology class they had. And and it took a while. So, fast forward 10 years later, finally, finished my degree in psychology and came to California to get a master's degree. And um in, where I grew up, it was like research site, clinical site. And in California, it's like smorgasbord, it's like a buffet of options of different, Jungian and um, organizational psych and a lot of others. It took me a little while to figure out my course, but I ended up, going on the path to get a license in marriage and family therapy. And meanwhile, I was working I did nursing for a while, and then I did behavioral health, psychiatric facilities, and loved working with all different ages, all different kinds of conditions that people were trying to navigate. And so it gave me a lot of great experience and some confidence, I guess. And then, one day I just hit a wall and needed to change gears and do something different after having a private practice. And I ended up working in research at UCSD with HIV and AIDS and the LGBTQ community and learned a lot about myself because, in the early years, that was such a devastating illness and
Yeah.
everyone was dying. So I stayed with that path for a while and in some ways sort of got my own house in order about what's important to me as I live. And
Mm.
because of working in HIV and addiction and some other areas, people, started asking me to come to a college class and talk about it and bring somebody living in recovery or living with HIV. And, they really didn't want to hear me. They wanted to hear, what this person's life experience was. And I kind of liked being in front of the room. And so a little bit later, I ended up with sort of a dream job of doing clinical training with
Mm.
a healthcare company that sent a group of about 5 of us all over the country to do continuing ed or CEU. Most licensed people have to get a certain number of those every 2 years to get your license renewed. So I was loving that, doing workshops, meeting new people, new cities. finding out what healthcare and behavioral healthcare was like in other states. And then one day, zzz, the whole department was eliminated.
Oh
So
gosh.
yeah, it was like pink slip. So my dear sweet husband, as I was agonizing on what to do next, he said, "Well, you have all these workshops. Why don't you start your own company and just do your own trainings?" And I was like, "That's a
I could
great
do that?
Home Alone face." Um, so, so I was considering that when I got a phone call that said from a friend of mine I used to work with, and he said, "Didn't you used to do like conference planning, event planning?" I was like, "Yeah," kind of whiny, but I don't want to do that. I want to do training and clinical training. And he said, "Well, help me with this. We'll hire you to do a training. And if you're any good, we'll keep hiring you." So that's kind of how my business started. And I started working with a big social service agency here in San Diego, California. And that agency had about 90 programs. So, I got to do a variety of things, and teaching and training turned into team building and um, coaching, really, even though I didn't actually know I was doing that. And then I was asked to do a strategic planning retreat, and I knew I didn't know that, right? You know, piecing things together. So I started looking for a coach training, and I started with sort of an executive coach program, and it didn't quite um, it was sort of like CEOs leaving their job and learning more about consulting versus
Mm,
coaching, even though I didn't
mhm,
know the difference yet. But they are very different.
mhm.
Hiring an expert to give you advice on your company or your leadership or whatever versus coaching. So I didn't quite finish the program, which is not like me. I usually kind
Yeah,
of
that doesn't sound anything like you.
no,
My goodness.
and I wanted it and I needed it. So then I happened to go to a 2 hour um, kind of little workshop. We had this thing called the Learning Annex, and it's a 2 hour learn to play the piano, learn to play the guitar. And this was, is there something you've been wanting to do and you're not doing it? And I was like, yeah, I wanted to get this certification and learn how to do strategic planning retreats. And so I went, and the speaker just pulled someone out of the audience and said, "What is it you've been wanting to do?" And coached on the spot without knowing anything about the person. And it was effective, efficient, fast. And I said, "That's what I want to do." And I signed up for coach training that night and didn't
Wow.
even know it was a thing.
Uh-huh.
And my first day of the coach training, I heard there was somebody learning to put this together with horses. And I sat right up in my chair and thought, maybe that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Hadn't been around horses in years. My husband said, "I've never seen you with a horse. What are you talking about?" I was like, "I don't know. It feels right." So,
This
I
work has a way of doing that to some of
really
us. It
like,
just like kind of tractor beams us in and
yeah,
goes, "Here, you should do that." Because I didn't have that experience with horses beforehand. It was just like, "Here, come do this." It just kept pulling me in.
yeah. And my favorite thing with you or Aaron and, some of the other instructors, Kasha, will be sitting around when teaching or doing training on sites. And it's like, how did we get here? How did we get here?
I didn't plan this. That was not in the script of my life, and yet here I am.
Right?
Yeah.
So I like to say I planned my degrees, but not my career. The
Uh,
career was really, I want to do this next. And I'm called or pulled to this population or this new methodology that I could learn. And um, we have a lot of therapists that want to learn to do coaching. There's some overlap, as you know, because you
mhm.
trained social worker. And um, but what I found when I started learning coaching is that I actually really like it. It's
Mm,
almost better.
mhm.
When I was a therapist, I needed to do an assessment and I needed to listen for symptoms. And I was pulling that together to give it a name and often telling my client, your symptoms are consistent with anxiety or depression, and sort of telling them something they might not know. And
Mm.
then here's the treatment plan, or here's how you could, relieve some of that suffering. So it's kind of like uncovering and recovering, once you know what it is. But coaching is discovering. Like,
Mm.
who are you? Who do you want to be? What's getting in the way of that? If you could do that, how would your life be different? And I really like that because, like, we can't go in with an agenda of what this person needs. I have a big sign up here that says "No fixing." You
Oh,
don't have
that is something I've had to learn
to,
over time as a coach is no fixing because my as a person, one of my strategies is often to try to fix things.
right?
And as a social worker, it kind of felt like that was my job too. I was getting people services to help them fix their problems, and it was about fixing. And it was a
Well,
big shift for me in mindset when I started coaching.
so I signed up for Equus Coach training, and then I signed up for the second year to learn to work with groups.
So let me just like recap this. So you were a marriage family therapist.
Nurse,
You've been a nurse. Oh yeah, nurse first, marriage and family therapist. You've done social services, HIV work. You've done strategic planning, conference planning. I know you've also worked in like conference planning for children's mental health. I know you've also done motivational interviewing. Anything else we're missing in terms of? Oh, you're a Dare to Lead, certified Dare to Lead
yeah.
facilitator. What else are we missing?
Well, let's see. I co-authored a book on depression
Uh,
way back in the day, and wrote a chapter in a like Discover Your Inner Strength book that featured Kim Blanchard and Stephen Covey at one point.
mm-hmm.
Play around with writing. I really like to do that. I love participating and helping with our newsletter articles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it really is a check in. Does this feel good to me? Does this feel fun?
Mm-hmm.
And I love that I can open my calendar and just go, look what I get to do.
With all of those skill sets, so you have a lot of things you can pull on to support people that can match people at different moments. What is
Mhm.
it about Equus coaching that keeps drawing you in terms of being able to support your clients?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing, it goes back to, when I was a therapist, there was a lot of pressure to be the expert and know what to do for this person. And in coaching and Equus coaching specifically, I really can't have an agenda because well, sometimes I know what kind of question I might ask, but I don't know what the person's going to say, and I don't know what the horse is going to do.
Yeah, that horse might get an array of any plan you might have.
Yeah. And, horses, as you know, and as hopefully people have been listening in, horses, their world is, am I safe or not safe? And if I'm safe, I can move towards you, interact with you, drop my head and eat, maybe even roll. If I'm not sure, there's this discernment and there's a moving away and checking the environment, checking for their herd, checking back with this person, this two-legged person next to me. And so, um, as I'm asking questions of my client, they're answering and the horse is sensing, like, how true does that feel? How congruent does it feel? And they move away from the stories we tell ourselves about who we are, why we have to do things. And as we get closer and closer to what really feels more true based on the client's own wisdom, the horses seem to be drawn to that somehow. It feels safe to be next to you. And there's nothing I could have done as a therapist in talk therapy that could even come close to that.
Yeah, it's that like experiential and relational part that makes it so impactful because you get to see your impact, the impact of your stories on the external environment, and you get to get curious about it. You get to try out new things. And I really love that we work with an animal that relies on its sensing and its sensitivity for its well being in life. I think so many of us as humans, we've been kind of the sensitivity is kind of pushed out of us. We're taught to not trust what we sense or to not trust our own way to sense through the world. We're supposed to look for somebody else that has the answer. And I
Yes.
love that our horses really model that piece that actually our strength can be in our sensitivity and in our ability to sense ourselves and our relationships.
Yeah, it's beautiful to watch. It's great to get that validation. Every time I'm with a horse, I learn something.
Yeah.
And I'm, as you too, like, our students sometimes get tired of coaching each other, and we're always like, I'll go coach
I'll
me.
jump in.
Yeah, because I always learn something. And, all it takes is a few good questions for me to think about my own wisdom and what do I know for myself, and then say that out loud and then get that feedback. I think the other thing that I have loved learning from myself that I often say, is this idea that our brain is immediately going to black and white, good, bad, right,
Mm,
wrong, because that's what keeps us safe in our own brain. And in working with the horses, it's easy to experiment with, oh, it doesn't have to be good or bad, right or wrong. It's just when I do this, it doesn't work. Good to know. Let
mhm,
me try something else.
mm,
And I feel like as humans, sometimes we've sort of lost the desire to brainstorm or experiment because of this sort of need to be certain. And
yeah.
certainty is not real, really.
No. Yeah, but
Mm,
it's so vulnerable to accept that as a truth that I can't be certain about this and I have to experiment and I could fail and I could screw it up and it could not go my way. Like it kind of makes sense that we've developed that because it is so vulnerable. And
mhm.
yet it's all a facade anyways. It's all fake. We can't
Yeah.
be certain.
No, no, and the journey and the learning is all in uncertainty.
Hmm. Yeah.
And the willingness to go there is variable.
So true. So we're kind of talking about I think people could probably apply this to their own personal self and thinking about how Equus coaching could help them as a person. But you were alluding to the fact that you do a lot of work with teams. Tell me a little bit about why you like working with teams and what makes it different from coaching with just an individual.
Yeah. Well, we spend so much of our time at work, and these teams, they're spending most of their waking hours with each other, and it is very relational. And, we've been taught these rules about what you can and can't do at work, and don't get emotional, and, all these things, which how can that be true? Because we're humans. So that's the one thing, is just recognizing how much time we spend with people at work, and how um, many, I don't know, I imagine like they carry a backpack, and every time there's conflict or whatever, we throw another rock in the bag, and pretty soon that bag's pretty heavy, right? And then the team's wondering, why aren't we doing better? Why can't we
Hmm.
communicate? Because everybody's carrying around that. So I think teams deserve the opportunity to get together and learn in a completely different environment. Not at work, but like at a park, or I don't know, taking teams to Dave and Buster's and to parks, and you can do it in a boardroom. But the biggest learning is with the horses, and part
Mm,
of that is, if you think about horses and their history, they have survived thousands of years out in the wild with no one feeding them, no corrals, no hay bales. Like, they stay together as a group, and they are prey animals. So their biggest defense is to run and stay together. And they have navigated that for years. How do they do that with no language? And so I love it when we can just, the tiny few minutes of just, how is this like that? How can horses do that? And what can we learn from that in our organizations? Because in the horse herd, there are roles, not positions. And they are able to co-decide who's the best one for that role in this moment with this particular thing happening. So if there's a herd of 100 horses, let's say up at Return to Freedom, where they rescue all these herds of horses and keep them together, um, there'll be these herds, smaller herds, like 100 here, 50 here. And when they're at rest, they go into smaller, like family pods. And there's a leader in every one of those, and with kind of a little hierarchy. And there's a scout that's watching for safety. When they're rest, there's always one of them standing guard, whether they're sleeping, standing up, or laying down. So they know that role. Then if there was a threat up on the hill, maybe 5 or 6 families get together, and now there's 50 of them. and they're going to move together to another hill. A leader emerges out front. How does that happen? Right. And then there's some on the side to keep them together, and there's some in the back making sure they're not losing anybody. And they're communicating the whole time they're running. And that leader sets the pace and direction and decides, where are we going for food or shelter or safety? And they do it all without words. And they get there and they rest and they eat and they sleep and they do it again the next time. And so there's this notion of shared leadership that I learned from teaching horse, actually, another certification that I have. Um, there's this model of this shared leadership, and when we take a team out for a full day, there's like these layers, right? We hear what the manager thinks going on with the team. We do pre-work from the individuals, so we're getting a feel for like how accurate is that? What else is going on? What do they think the team needs? And then we talk about what we can learn from horses, just like what we're talking about here. And then we ask each individual, knowing what you know now about what you can learn from horses, about sensing, about being honest with yourself or congruent, about how they take care of themselves and watch out for each other. What do you want to pay attention to today? Or what's something you want to discover? So they're learning about themselves or maybe one other person. And then we go do a team thing where they're all trying to herd a horse through these obstacles or lead a horse in a certain way. Um, and in that moment, now we're working at a different level,
Mm,
where instead of you and I coaching the person, knowing what we know about them, the team is the client. And we're encouraging them to learn new language, to talk to each other, manage conflict, switch roles. And then at the end of the day is, how are you going to use that to shift what's been happening at work? And it's very hard to do that just in a boardroom. I mean,
right.
we can try, and there are lots of exercises we can do, but the horse becomes a metaphor for either another team member, could be their client, it could be another department they're trying to work with, like, and they have to all get on the same page and notice things and tell each other what they're noticing, and then use that information to check in with their own assumptions, their energy, the direction they're taking. Do we need to switch that? I don't know of anything else like this.
If a team was like somebody that had a team they were working on, and they were curious about how Equus coaching could benefit for their team, what are some of the outcomes that people come to you looking to support their team with the Equus coaching experience?
Yeah, well, that's always like such an intriguing first call. Like, what
Yeah,
would you like to
right.
see happen for the team? And
Uh-huh.
sometimes it's, we've had a good second quarter and we want to celebrate. We want it to be, a team building, a fun day, a celebration, fun activities. And of course, always increase communication by getting to know each other. And then there's we've just had a merger and we're trying to get to know each other and work things out. Or we just had a really hard quarter two and the team didn't do well. They're in
Mm,
conflict and two people have resigned, and we need to figure this out. So it really is co-creating with what we would call the stakeholder, the contractor, the manager, sometimes it's HR, of what do they believe is going on with the team and what do they need. And, we have so many different exercises and activities that we can do individually, in pairs, as a group, mix up the groups. So it's co designing like a day or a 2-day retreat. Um, and then they really do leave with a new language of how to think about and talk about how they're how they're interacting with each other.
hmm.
Um,
And I love that conversation at the beginning starts with, what do you think is going on with the team? What do you think the challenges are? Where do you want to get to? And then also the horses have something to say once they get there about what's really going on with the team.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've seen horses not move and everybody's got the energy going. It's like,
Uh,
what's happening here?
uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've had like a executive director at a nonprofit really think, not in a like super problematic way, but really think her staff really wasn't stepping up to the plate in a way that would allow her to like step back and really empower them. She was really thinking it was them. And then we put them in paired activities with the horse, and immediately she jumps into control and blew past her team and didn't let them step up. And then we get to have a really cool conversation about, okay, you came in here thinking this was the challenge. What is this showing you as one of the challenge that's there? And when a executive director can see in that moment, oh, what did I just do right here? How did I just undermine what I'm trying to empower my staff to do? And then the team gets to go, yeah, that's what it feels like for us. Like that's one of those shared experiences that can like just transform everything.
Yes, shift everything because we often don't always have a mirror of feedback that helps us know how we're showing up in our relationships and especially at work because it's vulnerable to give people feedback like that. So the horses do it all day long, and somehow it's endearing when they do it.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
less threatening somehow to the ego. It doesn't make us defend as much against
yeah,
it as it does if a human does that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They could get mad at the coach, but they're
Uh-huh.
pretty fine with the horse
Yeah.
facilitator. Yeah.
Yeah, we as coaches, we get good at holding that mad part, huh? All right, fine, you're mad at me. Got it. I'm the problem. Cool.
I'm
And
your
also, let's keep going.
For now, I will be your problem.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Do any examples come to mind when you think about like specific teams you've worked with and sort of a transformation they went through or a learning they had that really was beneficial to them? Any specific examples come up?
Oh gosh, so many. One that the example you just gave, it was similar. It was a military team command, and it was the captain, the commanding officer. There was a civilian officer. I think there were four people. Everybody had a 360 where you get feedback from your boss and your peers and your direct reports, and they'd already had the debrief. So we did the individual and then went to the team activity, which was the three of them herding a horse through these obstacles, but they couldn't talk. They had to communicate without words like the horses do. And so, it was going swimmingly, even though there was a lot of mud that day. But the captain was in the corner of the arena trying to get the horse out of the corner, and the other two or three people were waving like, we can help you. And it went on for a while. And finally I was like, okay, time out. Let's do a check-in. Everybody can talk. What do you see happening here? And the captain's like, I'm doing everything I can to get this done. And they were like, we're all out here and we can help you, but you're not asking. And he goes,
Mm.
that's what my 360 said. I can't do everything on my own and I'm not delegating and I'm not asking for help. And so it was like, okay, regroup. How do you want to approach it? And they, talked for a minute. And I said, okay, now back to no words. Let's give it another shot and see what you can do. So that was one that was, incredible because it right there in the moment, it was like, okay, I get it
Well,
now.
yeah, that's the key moment. It's like the 360 can point to something, but if you don't have this situation playing out in front of you right there, it's hard to make a shift or change it. But Equus coaching in that scenario lets that captain make a change right there. Try it differently, see what happens, experiment with something new, feel what it feels like, and get a real sense of that shift. So I love that. That's the key moment that makes Equus
Yeah.
coaching so different.
I have one other example, and this was a police department. They were, on the street cops, and they had a new member who had been undercover detective. So that's very different now to come and be on the streets and new team, lead that job that felt like a known. And similar activity, herding a horse, but there were three horses, and we kind of set the arena up like a pool table, brown horse to the corner pocket. It was that kind of a, exercise. And the guidelines or the rules, it didn't matter if all three of the horses went or not. Like brown horse into the corner pocket, even if the others went, it's fine. And horses kind of stay together. And it was an indoor arena where there was one of those half doors and the
Hmm.
other horses were outside. So the horses in between would all go and look out to their herd mates. And so, we're doing the activity and I checked in while horses were checking on their friends. I said, "How's it going?" And the new officer said, I mean, he wasn't a new officer, but new to the team, said, "They don't want to be in here. They keep going to the door." And I said, "Why do you think that might be happening?" And he gave some theories. And then I said, "In what way might you feel that way? Does that match? Do you, is it hard for you to be in here?" He said, "Yeah, I don't know horses. I don't know what I'm doing. The horses are running and, it feels, I'm feeling really cautious." And this is the difference in a group versus a team. In that moment, I really knew that I needed to give it back to the team to figure out what to do and not me decide. So I said to the
Mm.
team, "Okay, you have a team member that's feeling a bit threatened with the pace and what we're doing here. So how would you like to navigate that?" I mean, and they could have said, "Feel free to sit out. We've got it." I was praying they wouldn't. They didn't. They said, "Okay, we're going to slow it down. Let's think of how to approach this." So they came up with this idea to approach it almost like a call where there's like a family disturbance. They don't know what's going to be happening. They have to really be in contact with each other and separate to get the right story or the real story. So they have a code for that that I didn't know, police code. And so they said, "That's how we're going to do it." And they went in very cohesive, very calm. Everybody had their role. They got the horse over to the corner that they wanted, and then we debriefed. And it was really like, okay, we need to take care of our team member here,
Wow.
and we're going to figure out how to do that together. And they used their own work as an example of how to do that.
Wow.
And the debrief was really good.
That's so powerful because it's like you said earlier that at a certain point the individuals stop being the client and now it's the team that's the client, and that part of you that knew in that moment, it's not for me to solve this with this person, the team has to solve this. That is
Yeah,
so powerful to hear that like the team became the client and they had something to work on, and empowering them to work on it actually is what will help them when they leave that experience.
yeah. The team needs to develop new skills that they can take back out and use immediately,
Yeah,
and language and other things, about sensing and all of that. So yeah, and they're really different working with individuals, families, groups that don't know each other, and then a team that does know each other. And it's a lot of skill for the coach to
mm,
manage all of that and manage ourselves. Like,
totally.
know when I'm getting, a little bit activated, like, or there's conflict and I'm worried a little bit. It's managing, my own emotions and trusting the process
Mm.
and trusting the team or the group.
That's so true, and it sets up perfectly, like, this is why we offer a training that teaches people to do groups and teams, and so our, Equus Coaching Master Facilitator program, that which we run once a year, is a program that teaches people to move out of just the one-on-one work and to start working with groups, and now teams especially too. We offer an advanced certification in team coaching, which is an ICF certification that goes along with being a master facilitator that really allows people to work on this piece, to do that self-management, to learn the difference of working with the team, to engage with the client, being the team rather than the individuals within the team. And that advanced certification in team coaching is available to anybody that's an ICF coach, so you don't have to be an Equus coach yet to be able to do that. So I love that that's something we've been adding recently, and we just kicked off
Mhm,
for the first time this year, and we're going to keep doing that because we do think there is real value, it like the examples you shared about how Equus can really impact teams out there.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. It's mastery. I mean,
Yeah.
really, at that level, it's
Yeah.
it's really using all your skills and then trusting yourself.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, yeah,
and the
yeah. So
horses.
true.
Yeah.
So, some of our other offerings that are available right now, we're about to kick off our fall 2025 cohort of the standard Equus coaching course. So, if you're somebody that's wanting to learn how to work to do this as an with your clients, if you're wanting to be a coach, if you're already a therapist that wants an experiential model for your coaching, anybody that wants to come through, we can teach you the horse piece, we can teach you the coaching piece, we can get you ready for all of it so that you're successful out there. So fall 2025 starts in September. On September 16th is the date. Another part of what you offer is something called Soul Camp. Will you tell a little bit about that?
Love soul camp. The idea is, what is your soul whispering for you to do next? Like
Ooh, got
following
chills.
your, I know it's like following your purpose, your path in life. And, we get whispers all the time, and sometimes we don't listen. But I think a lot of people are in that place where, we want to come home to ourselves, and we want to be happy. Not everybody can leave their job and follow their soul, but you could create a balance, right? If
Mm,
you know what the whisper is. So Soul Camp was created, oh gosh, 7 years ago, with Wendy Kranz and Aaron Kutchell and myself, and we do it in San Diego. So we have a meet and greet Thursday night, a day with the horses, a day of coaching at Coronado Island. So we go to the beach, and there's all these activities that we have, coaching exercises that help you really ask yourself or your soul, what am I supposed to be doing next, or what could I add? And then we have a half day of integration. We have a dinner out together, but it's a lot of what we might call in coaching sort of dreaming and scheming. A lot of us go through a big life change, and we need to kind of grieve and take care of ourselves. And then there's this dreaming and scheming. What's possible now?
mm,
And then we pull one of those dreams down and say, okay, how do I do that?
mm.
But I think we don't spend enough time in that imagining the possibilities time. I mean, I got laid off from my job. The up department was eliminated. Not one person said to me, wow, you have time to dream about what you want to do next. People are like, what are you going to do? Where are you going to fly?
Yeah, capitalism and our current
Yeah.
economy don't really allow for that
Yeah.
dreaming and scheming for most people.
So I really love the coaching in the imagining and possibilities realm, um, because we don't often get to ask ourselves that. Like, if I had all
Yeah.
the money in the world, won the lottery tomorrow, what would I do? Because I love it and I'm good at it and I could be of service,
Mm,
help people. Like, that
beautiful.
takes us way back to a dream we had usually.
Totally. To childhood sometimes even, who we wanted to be back then. So we run that you run that 2 times a year. What months are they typically?
They're usually in October, so they're usually the first weekend in October, which is right around my birthday. And then we
Mhm.
do it in March or April, because those are just kind of really lovely times weather-wise in San Diego.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, so to recap, we've got for those that want to become an Equus coach, we've got the fall 2025 training coming up on September 16th. For those who want to train to offer coaching with teams, we've got the advanced certification in team coaching for any ICF certified coach. We've got Soul Camp available. And for those of you that have been listening that are a part of a team that want to experience Equus coaching with your team, we also offer the Equus experience for that. So reach out to us if you want to explore what this could look like for your team. We'll co-design that with you and make sure that that's something that meets your objectives and helps your team really get to the next level of where you're trying to get to. All
And
of that
and
information. Oh,
and
go
you don't
ahead.
have to come to us, teams. We'll find a ranch within a 30 to 40-mile radius of your corporate place, and we will partner with that ranch to offer the experience. So give
That's
us a
such a good point. Like, I think people assume we only work at one place. We are working all over the country, sometimes out of the country even. We know how to build relationships with ranches, so we can come to you. So we will travel. We will find horses to be there with you. So that's a really good point. All that information can be found at equuscoach.com. I'll make sure there's a link in the description of this video so you can easily find all of that and learn how to reach out to each one of us. Thank you so much, Renee, for being here, for sharing about yourself. This has been such a fun conversation.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me, and I can't wait to see the new relationships we create from these videos.